So I'm Liam Byrne, I'm the Member of Parliament for Hodge Hill. I'm the Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, and I'm also the co-chair of the group that wrote the manifesto for this year's local government elections here in Birmingham.
Okay, could you tell us a little bit about all the things you like about Birmingham?
I suppose there's a couple of things that really are amazing about Birmingham. I mean, the first is that we're a very diverse community, and that just makes Birmingham a more interesting place to live. I mean, things are very dull if everybody is all the same and they think the same about everything.
You're very strongly within the Yes to an Elected Mayor campaign.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us why you think a directly elected mayor would benefit Birmingham?
One reason. We just can't go on in the way that we're going on right now. We're on the brink of a jobs crisis. We've got over 50,000 people on the dole. Because we're such a young city, we've got to create another 50,000 jobs over the next 10 years just to keep pace with where we are today. And we've got about a third of our workforce already in the public sector, and we know the Tory Lib Dem coalition is going to hit those folk hard over the next few years. So what does all that mean? It means we're standing on the brink of a jobs crisis, and if we carry on in the way we are right now, things are going to get very, very serious over the next few years. So that's why I want to stand for mayor, because I want to bring jobs to the city. We're sitting this morning in the constituency with the highest youth unemployment in the entire country. And so when I come to work, what I see is the wasted talent and potential. I want young people in Hodge Hill and in Birmingham to have great jobs to go to, because I know that's what they want, and I know what kind of impact they can make on the world. And I was brought up, by my parents to believe in the pride and the dignity of work. Those kind of ideas are at the core of our party. We're called the Labour Party. The clue is in our name. We're the party of work. But right now, there's not enough jobs in Birmingham. We need more, and we need a mayor to really get the city back to work. What's brilliant about Birmingham is that it's just an incredibly diverse and different place. And, it's our differences that make life interesting, and that's why Birmingham's so interesting. I suppose the second thing, though, is that this is an ingenious city. I mean, this is a place where you can get anything done, where you can build anything, and where we have built pretty much anything and everything over the last couple of 100 years, and that's what's going to pay our way in the future. So diversity, ingenuity, and finally we're a very young city, and that means we're going to be an incredibly important place to be for our country over the years to come. Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, and I'm also the co-chair of the group that wrote the manifesto for this year's local government elections here in Birmingham.
Having been there and done it yourself, do you have any advice for young entrepreneurs in the city?
Go for it is the big advice. I mean, when we talk to young people in Hodge Hill schools and you ask them what's their top priority for new things to do, is it or for new investment? Do they want a new swimming pool, cricket pitches, arts, media, drama, or investment in learning a new skill, e.g. starting a business? That wins in almost all of our schools. So I know that our young people here in Birmingham are incredibly aspirational, but they just don't get given a break. So one of the things we're doing is we're trying in Hodge Hill something called enterprise education, where you just give young people a lot more experience and training of how they come together in teams, how they write business plans, how they go out and find money. But the thing I learned about starting a business is you can't be scared of failure. I'd lived for a couple of years in America, and actually in America a lot of people won't fund you unless you've failed 3 times already. So the big thing about being an entrepreneur is you can't be scared of failure. You fall in order to learn how to pick yourself back up again. And that's my basic message for young people, really. Being an entrepreneur is a brilliant thing to do. You're going to hit hurdles, sometimes they'll hurt. When that happens, you just got to pick yourself up and do it again.
Okay, obviously jobs is a key issue for young people currently. So how would you and your team go about delivering jobs if you were to be the elected mayor of Birmingham?
Well, I've not been in politics very long, about 8 years now. Before that I spent my career in business. Before I was elected I was a technology entrepreneur where I built a very successful, fast-growing technology business. So I know quite a lot about creating jobs. And there's a couple of things that you could do straight away here in Birmingham. First, you could do far, far more to bring in inward investment. I mean, I spent a lot of time over the last 5 years building links in China, for example. I know that there are big Chinese investors who want to come to the city, but they're not quite sure what is the right way in. So actually, as mayor, what I would do is bring together the council, the universities, the colleges, our private sector to put a much better offer on the table for those big inward investors who I know are waiting to come in. Second, and I would say this as someone who used to work in small business, we need to do far more for our small business community. You know, right now the City Council spends £3.5 billion a year, but our public services spend about £7.5 billion a year. Imagine what an impact we could make if they used that money to buy local and buy from small business. That would be a massive shot in the arm for the local small business community. No reason why we can't do it, and as mayor it would be one of the first things I do.
So going back to the elected mayor, how do you think that role could impact on the transport in the city?
Transport is awful in Birmingham, and it's worst of all for young people. It's expensive, people feel vulnerable. I know lots of young people who have been victims of crime on transport. Often it's dirty, you can't get back from the city centre late at night. It's just a bit of a nightmare. So I do think you need something like a Transport for Birmingham that could help you introduce something like the Oyster card that has worked really well in London. I think we should be looking at how you get discounted fares, not just for young people but also for apprentices, so that it's easier for them to get to work but also to get to and from college. And you've got to do something about safety on public transport. I mean, I would ban alcohol, I would have much tougher enforcement of the rules, because for young people, particularly young women, they just don't feel safe getting on public transport. And you need a transport system to get around the city. Now, they've got a lot of those things sorted under the mayor. Actually, Ken Livingstone introduced it in London, and I think that's what we need in Birmingham. We need it fast.
So, final question is looking at the disengagement within the city.
Yeah.
I think a recent survey polled that 84% of young people in the city actually didn't even know that referendum was taking place. So if you were to be the directly elected mayor of Birmingham, how would you go about ensuring the youth voice in the city is listened to?
Well, it's not a surprise that people are switched off from politics right now, because when they switch on their telly and they kind of see the Punch and Judy match in Westminster, they find it pretty unedifying, and they don't see how it affects change outside their front door. So there's two big things, I suppose, that I would do for the city, and they're based on ideas that have worked for us here in Hodge Hill. First, we would have a constant conversation with young people. So I used to, before the campaign got underway, I used to go and see a school every week, talk to the school council, talk to young people and parents on the school gate. And you need a big youth parliament in Birmingham. You need representatives in all the schools that send people along to that youth parliament, so that everybody can feel that they can get their voice heard. So you need to make sure that there's a proper youth council, youth parliament like that for the city. I believe in young mayors. I think they should be elected every year. I think that would be a good thing. But I would also start looking at how you could get young people involved in community projects in their local community, because politics is basically about how you make change happen. All politics is how people who are different come together to agree an agenda for action and get on and sort it. And so what we need to be doing together with our young people is finding those projects in each part of the city where we can get young people actually involved in designing what change should look like, and then get on with actually delivering change. And yes, resources need to be put behind them. That way, young people can kind of step back in years to come, point to something in their local community and say, you know what, I did that. So it's a source of pride, but it's also a signal to the wider community that our young people are citizens of this city too. They've got a stake in this city, and they're getting on right now with changing our city for the better.